So Grant, is it able to catch up yet?
Yeah, they actually just kicked right on. So
All right.
you're live on both venues.
All right. So
Awesome.
good morning, everybody, on this in New Milford. It's rainy Saturday morning. It's supposed to clear, and we're supposed to have a beautiful Sunday and a beautiful Memorial Day Monday. I thank you guys for tuning in today. So first, um, I'd like to thank our men and women in the armed forces for everything they do, um, both here and both abroad, because they protect us, and we can't thank them enough for really providing service to us and sometimes sacrificing not only their time, their family time, but also sometimes their lives. And those we remember on Memorial Day. That's the most important part of Memorial Day. I know a lot of us like to cook, uh, enjoy time with family, and during this COVID-19 pandemic, have to enjoy it a little bit differently. But if we could just definitely pause for a moment and reflect the true meaning of Memorial Day, and that's to honor those men and women who have fallen while in service. So I'd just like to take a moment, brief, like say 10 seconds, if we could just bow our heads and just for a moment, just reflect and give thanks to those that paid the ultimate sacrifice for us. And I'd like to thank you for that. I'd also like to thank the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts as a time honored tradition. Um, they put flags out on the graves of the fallen servicemen and women who are in our cemeteries here in New Milford. And they have done that this week, and some are continuing, I believe, to do so today as well. But to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, thank you so much for doing this time honored tradition to show the respect that we in New Milford give to our men and women in the armed forces, both currently serving and those that have served. So thank you. Next, I'd like to kind of go through the numbers again, as we do each week, as far as the COVID-19 confirmed cases. And what I mean by confirmed is these are people that have already been confirmed from the beginning of when we went through this COVID-19 uh, process, where the governor basically signed his executive order, to today. Most of these cases, these individuals have either gone through and recovered, or some unfortunately have passed away. So currently, with the numbers, the state of Connecticut is at 39,640. Litchfield County is at 1,301. Hospitalizations are down again to 6. So that's 6 total in the county of Litchfield. New Milford, we're at 259 confirmed cases. And unfortunately, we do have 21 deaths here in New Milford. So if you could please say a prayer for those deceased and those families that have been affected. Next, as we talk about each and every week, we continue to have the stay safe, stay home regulations still in place by Governor Lamont. And those are the ones that we talk about each and every week, where you have the social distancing 6 feet or greater. If you are going outside and you're going to plan to not have the 6 feet social distancing, please wear a mask. If you're going into any type of retail establishment, please wear a mask. And when you do go in and you do patronize, say, a grocery store, please, if you're wearing gloves and a mask and you're going to dispose of them, please put them in the proper disposal of the trash, preferably your own home. But there are, at our retail locations, there are places where you can dispose of them properly, not in the carriage and not on the ground, because somebody else will have to pick those up. So if you could help out and just do the right thing, and please put them in the trash receptacles. The store employees that have to pick those up would greatly appreciate that, and thank you for that. Next is the outside, kind of talking a little bit about Grant and I talked about before we kicked on, is the outside dining. So this past week, uh, Governor Lamont on May 20th allowed for some continuing opening of different things in Connecticut and here in New Milford, phase 1. And some of that was the outside dining. So that's allowing some of our restaurants to offer meal service right outside. So I signed an executive order that actually allows even a little bit more flexibility as far as some of our restaurants that didn't have the sidewalk capability to be able to offer service. So with this executive order, we're allowed to make some additional adjustments. So some of the things you'll see is some of the restaurants will have um, their outdoor dining in a parking lot, or here in the downtown on Railroad Street. We've actually blocked off some of the parking lots with Jersey barriers that were horizontally right next to the business to allow some of our restaurants additional capability to serve patrons. And then you have other ones that did have the space or did have the outside dining that have kind of spruced it up or linked in a little bit. And then you have other restaurants that have put tents up. So they've all done wonderful and remarkable jobs. I believe we're well over 20 some restaurants, Grant, that participated since the opening of Wednesday that are open now. And from what we've been hearing from most of the restaurants, they had a very successful time in opening. And we're very thankful that, they've had the opportunity. We're thankful that they were open. So it was exciting to see, and that's great. On the retail front, retail establishments are allowed to be open at 50% capacity, and they had a few guidelines as well. And Karen Pollard, who's our economic development director, and I, the prior week and on Monday as well this week, we had virtual meetings with different sectors of the business community, updating them on what was going to be required to open and what was needed. I can't thank our New Milford Economic Development Corporation. So that's a quasi corporation, it's both public and private. And they were able to give out sneeze guards, which is a requirement for some of the retail establishments, which you'll see if you walk into some of these establishments to go to pay. Just like you would the grocery store, it protects the cashier or the person ringing you up against the person that's giving the money. So there's that barrier between there. And the Economic Development Corporation was able to give some of those out and thank them for that. Also, the state of Connecticut provided some thermometers, which is needed for some of the businesses to reopen, especially when we're talking about commercial buildings. So those were given out. We can't thank the state, and we can't thank our economic development team and our emergency operations command team member, Kevin Reynolds, for helping us lead the charge there. We're continuing to build on our inventory of things that we have here for the town and town employees and first responders, which are masks, gloves. And we're doing that in case there's a second major flare-up, which some people are predicting is going to be into the fall. So we're trying to plan for that as well as continuing our strategy for both current times right now and both the short-term and long-term strategies as we move forward through this pandemic. So I'd like to thank everybody for that. Also, our parks are still under executive order that I signed here. They're for New Milford residents only as we continue our social distancing policy. As far as Lendeming, which is our beach property that we do here in New Milford, it also has a boat dock launch and a launch. We met with our Park and Rec team, and we were allowing, I believe it was starting Thursday, Grant, I believe we were allowing people by appointment only, the people who have the docks, to arrange to get their boats in the water. And I believe they should be completed today. If I'm not sure, I'll get a follow-up from Park and Rec Director Dan Calhoun today. And I believe tomorrow, Memorial Day, if you want to launch your boat and you don't have a dock, by appointment only, they were allowing for that. And then on Tuesday, those that have a lakefront property in New Milford that want to just go and launch their boat one time, so then they can get it to their property on Tuesday. We're going to start doing that by appointment only. And I had a few people ask about why we're doing it by appointment only. They want to get their boat in the water. They're just like, why? I 100% understand and appreciate that. And the reason being is the Governor Lamont's current order is still a gathering of 5 or less, unless you're having some kind of ceremony or whatnot. So we want to make sure that we're compliant with that. And that's why we're doing it appointment only, allowing one boat at a time so we can keep within that compliance. Lendeming for both the beach and the playground is still currently closed, but we're continuing to assess the beach as well. And we'll have more on that as the time goes on further and farther. As far as the other parks, they are open, the trails, for you to partake and get some exercise in. As we've been talking about since the very beginning, and I believe at the president's last news conference, their public health officials were again saying the importance of going out and getting some fresh air. Best if you can do it around your neighborhood, but we do have parks and trails available for you to do so. I do ask if you do come and it's beautiful weather and you do see the parking lot, it's pretty full, to just come back at a later time because we want to keep the social distancing where we can. And it's very important as we want to continue to have these numbers stay where they are or go up a little bit each time. And that just makes sure it lessens any impact on the hospitalizations that have come down significantly. And we'd like to thank our medical staff and people in the medical business profession for all their hard work. It's through their hard work and endeavors that so far we've been able to, especially here in New Milford, really keep those hospitalizations and numbers down. As far as looking ahead, June 20th, in my call that I was with other mayors and first selectmen, with the governor and his team, was June 20th is the potential next phase 2, of which there'll be continued reopenings. And some of those, I'm not going to go through all of them, but some of them is going to be movie theaters, youth sports, restaurant inside capabilities to serve inside. And there's other lists, and we'll be pushing those out through the next couple of weeks when we get more information and guidelines as to how those things are going to work. But the good news is there's still some more opportunities. I also believe gyms are in that as well, and bowling alleys. And we'll have more updates as we get more information on that. But we're continuing to move the state and New Milford open, which is very important to our business community. And speaking of our business community, I can't thank you, the public, enough for patronizing our businesses, especially our local businesses. They're the ones that donate to our nonprofits, that help our community. And I can't thank you enough and continue to ask you to do so. And it was great to see. So I was talking to Grant a little while ago, seeing the restaurants seating outside. When we started those, a lot of them full to where they need to be. And it was great to see. And then some of the restaurateurs giving me a call just saying, that they were happy that, the first couple of days seemed to be very successful. So if you can, please continue to patronize. If you still feel uncomfortable that you can't do outside seating, there's still the availability of getting your dinner or lunch or breakfast delivered to you. Also, you can do curbside pickup. And if you still feel uncomfortable with that, you can always do a gift card. In any way of these ways of sponsoring or patronizing our businesses is a great way to help the small business community here in New Milford. So I'd like to thank our residents for continuing to do that. I'd also like to thank our residents for their continued wonderful and generous donations. They've given to our food bank, Carmela's Cupboard, to the other faith-based food banks. We can't thank you enough for that. And also for your donations to our sustainability fund. We have now over $14,000 that's been raised, and I can't thank you guys enough. And this will go a long ways to be helping a lot of different things, from first responders to entities within our business community, entities within our regular community. And we're going to collaboratively work. Got to get that right, Grant?
Exactly.
With our community nonprofits and also our residents, all to make this fund something that can help us go into the future. I had our meeting, which we do weekly coronavirus meetings, which we have on Fridays at noontime. And we have a large amount of stakeholders that are involved in there. And that's everything from all of our first responders to department heads to those representing our nonprofit sector. I've asked State Representative Bill Buckley to join us on these calls as well, and he was very helpful with us at the meeting this past week, giving us the state perspective as well, and whatever services that we can ask of him to do. We appreciate all of his hard work up in Hartford for that, and also looking at our those less fortunate people in need, what services we can help and provide for that as well. And in that meeting, we were talking about how we are going to continue to push forward. And some of our metrics is obviously the pandemic is a medical one that we must keep our eye on and continue to work, but it's also with the new economic data that has come out. We also know that this is putting a severe strain on the economy as well, and what that'll mean for our New Milford residents moving now and into the future. So we're making plans for that, as we already have. And some of those plans that we've talked about before, and I've talked about here several times, is our Victory Gardens. And our Victory Garden Committee meets weekly. And part of those people that we have is the wonderful members of the New Milford Garden Club. Pat Hembrook from my office is helping as well, Mayor Gambino. And it's just great to see all this knowledge coming together to benefit the Victory Gardens. I know Grant's been busy posting on our Facebook page, Victory Gardens Facebook page. We've been putting out videos from those in the gardening community, from the garden club, showing how to grow a Victory Garden. And the great thing is you don't need a big plot of land to do it. You could also do it in containers. I know that's the last video that we have up there, so I could do container Victory gardening. And I can't thank the business community, whether it be Scott's Landscaping, Agway, we've got a Cosmos, Grant, whom I forgetting. We've got Meadowbrook, have all volunteered their services. They're coming up with their Victory Garden kind of starter kits that you can purchase from them and get that free advice, so to speak, for the Victory Gardens. And it's great to see all the people already who've said they're starting their Victory Gardens. If you are starting a Victory Garden, please send that to our Facebook page. And we're glad to put that up so that others can see. And we're kind of getting a template as to how these are being successful. And what the Victory Gardens do, this was, for those that don't know, back in World War II, they were created to help produce fresh produce for not only the families, but the neighbors that surrounded the families and so on. And we're asking that if you do get abundance, if you could share, that would be a wonderful way to help all our New Milford residents. So that's really great. And I can't thank the Victory Garden Committee for that. As we move forward, as I said before, some of the things we're looking about is the economic impacts and how that's going to affect our citizenry here in New Milford. I'll have more on that next week as we do move forward. I know another, I believe it was close to 3 million people did apply nationally again. And the numbers that we are seeing are depression level numbers as far as unemployment. So it's very important that we help those in need, help our businesses who are an engine of employment, and continuing to offer opportunities to help mitigate that, as well as we're doing it in New Milford. And I'll have more on that. Grant, I'd like to just take a moment. Do we have any questions so far as I'm going through all these different topics?
Sure thing. Not a question, but got some thank yous to all our servicemen and women from Joanne Figgs again.
Amen, Joanne.
And then this is pretty cool. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, but Belen Gatti. She says, "Good morning, Mayor Bass. Thank you for the update on our town. I'm currently in Texas doing my tech school in JBSA, Fort Sam Houston." She's Air Force, so that's pretty cool.
And thank you for your service. God bless.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's really great. Thank you. Some more thanks. Um, let's see. We've got Sandy Woodford wants to know if people have to make appointments to use their boats.
So if you're talking about Lendeming, the answer would be to get a launch. If you haven't um, registered for a dock already with Park and Rec, and you want to do a launch, you do have to register with the Park and Rec committee or commission, and we'll post their number on the site as we move forward today to make an appointment. And the reason being for that is Len Deming, due to a few years ago, we had a lot of non-compliancy there. So we put in security guards, put in gates. It's our crown jewel on the beach here in New Milford. Um, and basically what this does is by appointment only, it allows to keep us compliant with social distancing, which in gatherings that aren't ceremonies or whatnot is 5 or less. So that's why we're doing one boat at a time, which then allows for that compliance. So I hope that answers your question for you as far as that. Now, the private ones like Gerard's and other marinas, they may have other protocols how they do their launch, but the one at Lendeming, the public one, we're following those protocols, and those by DEEP, which is Department of Environmental Protection, and by appointment only. So if you give the Park and Rec team a call, they'll gladly set up an appointment for you.
Awesome. Joanne Figs here says we're getting a Jersey Mike's and a Chipotle. Is that for real?
So, Joanne, great question. And as of pre COVID-19, those two businesses were confirmed to be coming to New Milford. So I agree with you. I'll find out more about where they are in the process. I know a lot of this has slowed down growth in different businesses. They've kind of put a hold of suspension on things while we're going through this pandemic. But I'll find out, have more information for you. But yes, they were scheduled to come to New Milford.
Awesome. Love Chipotle. Pat Erickson. Hey, good morning, Pat. She says, please thank Councilman Chris Cosgrove for raising so much money for the Sustainability Fund and shaving his head for his challenge.
Yeah. So, Pat, you kind of beat me to it. That was the next thing after my opening up of the Q&A. So our Sustainability Fund, as I had mentioned before, we've raised almost $15,000, and I can't thank our residents enough for doing that. And last week, we had talked about our first wonderful person, Ron Evans, who's in our zoning commission, who had offered, hey, if you can raise $500 in 24 hours, I'll shave my head. So we hit that mark. He shaved his head. So Councilman Cosgrove graciously put out to raise $1,500. If you raise $1,500, he would shave his head. So last night on the bandstand, or rather the step of the bandstand, we watched as Chief Squires shaved Councilman Chris Cosgrove's head. I can't thank the councilman enough. All in a wonderful effort to continue to raise funds for this fund that's going to help a lot of people. So we can't thank you enough, and thank you, Councilman Cosgrove. Outstanding.
Yeah, it was a great video. I saw it
Absolutely
last evening. It was great. Lois Chudlinski asks, is there testing in New Milford?
So Lois, currently the testing is done in Danbury, and that the hospital, Nuvance, has had the testing done to New Milford. I heard Docs, which is the emergency care in where the John's Best Pizza is in that plaza, may be doing that. You may want to check that out with them. But currently the testing is still being done in Danbury. They're looking to open up more opportunities. CVS is continuing to roll out their testing in different CVSs. They haven't done it yet here in New Milford. Because of our population, we're kind of on the second and third tier for them. That will happen, but I don't know when it will happen. It won't be immediately. So if you do want to get tested, my recommendation is to go to the Danbury facilities. that they have there to get your testing. And speaking of the testing, one of the reasons that you've seen us go up a little bit, sometimes 3 a day, sometimes 4 a day, and speaking with our health director, Mike Crespin, and his team. And thank you, Mike, if you're watching, and your team, you've done a stellar job. Thank you for all you're doing for the town. We were talking, and with all of the new testing that's continuing on, we're finding out that with the expanded testing, that's why we're seeing some of our numbers increase due to that. So we felt that we've kind of leveled off here in New Milford, and some of the additional numbers have been because of the additional testing. But that means we shouldn't all decide to ease up and not really follow the protocol that's got us here to where we flattened it. We want to maintain that or get it less. And to do that, we need to continue on with the recommendations that have been given to us.
Awesome. We've got a couple of people over on YouTube right now. One is Todd Quappian. He says, thanks, Mayor Pete, for keeping us informed. You're doing a wonderful job.
Thanks, Todd.
Then he asks, do we know if churches will be opening for small gatherings as part of phase 2?
So, Todd, that's a great question. And yes, that will be part of the phases. I had a call about a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks now. They kind of blended together with our faith-based leaders to talk about the opportunities. I will be knowing more Tuesday about some of those opportunities, especially with our faith-based organizations. Then I'm going to reach out to our pastors and ministers and let them know kind of what we've been hearing here at Town Hall as far as that. I'm very hopeful that the opportunity for our faith-based organizations to do something in a more personal way would be beneficial to our community and to our churches and to our community. So I'll have more on that on Tuesday. Thanks, Todd.
Another one from YouTube. This is the question from Megan Bird. She says, now that the CDC has released their guidelines for reopening schools, can you talk about your thinking on the school budget, which you'll be voting on in a little over a week? Thank you.
Hi, Megan. So that's a very good question as far as the CDC rules. Really what's going to be driving the metrics for the state as far as reopening schools, and talking to Dr. Parker and the board head chair, Angie Chastain. We've been holding meetings, is concerning is the unknown. We really don't know. There are guidelines that the CDC may have, and then there may be what's called an overlay, additional guidelines that are going to be provided by the state of Connecticut. There's been a lot of conjecture and a lot of hearsay on some of the new things they're talking about, which is the reduction of the number of children that can be in a classroom. Then we'll put pressure on different classes, and then how the Board of Ed and Superintendent Parker would handle that. And they're working on that as of today. Hopefully, as we continue to move forward, we can have some more guidance on that as to how that will lay out as far as the schools and the actual expense that will have to be incurred by our school system for those different COVID-19 regulations that I feel very confident are going to be placed on our schools. So as we get closer and closer to June 1, which is the date where Town Council will convene to finalize the budget for next year, the more information the council can get, the better informed they will be on their decision. And speaking of that, Grant, on June 1 as well, prior to the Town Council meeting, we'll have a public hearing, and that will be for residents to express their opinion on the budget. And then from there, after the public hearing has been adjourned, we'll move right into the council meeting of where they'll do their deliberations. And then once they're completed with their deliberations, that will be the budget set for the year 2021. And for those that are saying, Pete, why is it 2021? Because municipal year ends are different than regular folks year end, which regular folks is 12/31 of the year, December 31st. In the municipal world, it's June 30th of the year. So that's why it kind of straddles over a regular year, the municipal year. So that's why you see the difference that way. So I think it's very important. If you want to reach out to your council members, you can email towncouncil@newmilford.org. if you'd like to bring in your comments so that they can read those, that would be great, so they can hear from you. And again, we'll continue to provide more information the closer to we get towards that decision. And we spoke about this about 3 weeks ago, I believe, or maybe 4 weeks ago, Grant, concerning the process and how this happened. This was due to executive order by Governor Lamont. And in his executive order, there was really no availability. We had Randy DeBella here, our town attorney, speaking on it. No ability for us to do any type of referendum. I strongly disagreed with the governor, sent him a letter, called their office expressing our concern that we really wanted the public, as we always have here in New Milford, the ability to vote on a budget per person. But unfortunately, the governor's executive order is law, as it's still in effect, and we have to abide by that. So this is what we're going to be doing. The Board of Finance has made their recommendations and adjustments as far as line items, and now as far as categories, and now the town council will look at line item opportunities on the town side. The Board of Education side is only a recommendation for the bottom line, as the Board of Education then would make any adjustments line by line item. So I have more information on that.
Awesome. Paul Murphy on Facebook, he says, "Thank you, Mayor, for your continuing updates. Can you please advise any veterans about the Monday event?"
Absolutely, Paul. Thank you. I was going to get into that as well. So as we all know, due to COVID-19 and the gatherings, because we get lots and lots of people here in downtown, especially for Memorial Day tradition, as we all know. We canceled Memorial Day, and that was in conjunction with our commanders, Jeff McBriarty from the American Legion and Jim Delancey from our VFW. And we felt the parade would really cause a lot of big gathering here, which has been expressively frowned upon by the state. But what we do want to make sure is, as we've done for as long as I know of, we've always honored on Memorial Day those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. And we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to do that with a smaller ceremony. It's going to start at Waterwitch, and it's going to be brought up to the Southern Green, where we're going to continue to honor those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice at the monument on the southern part of the green. And both commanders will present the wreaths. We will then move down to the Veterans Bridge, as we always do, for the last wreath, and put the last wreath into the Housatonic River. We will then come back. We will have first responder vehicles that will be waiting. We will then tour with the first responder vehicles the green, and then go into Center Cemetery to pay our respects to over 800 servicemen and women who are laid to rest there. I believe it's 8:45. I could be off a few. Then we're going to come back and the procession will end. We are asking our citizens to not come down to this event, if at all possible. We're going to be Facebook Live streaming this so that you can watch it at the comfort of your home or where you're at to pay your respects. We'd appreciate that, but due to social distancing, we're asking you to watch it that way. But we still are going to honor the men and women who deserve that wholeheartedly. Also, I cannot thank our Girl Scouts and our Boy Scouts enough for putting the flags and our American Legion and our VFW members for putting the flags on the graves in honorarium of Memorial Day. They do this each and every year, and they continue to do this year. And I can't thank you enough for doing that, to show the pride of our town. It's a wonderful tradition that we do, and we're going to continue to do that. So thank you. I'd also like to thank the Daughters of the American Revolution and the CAR, which is the children's part, the Merriman Association, which is the children's part of the Daughters of the American Revolution. They are putting out poppies that are made by the youth here in New Milford. I posted a box of them to kind of show what they look like on my Facebook page, the mayor's page. And those will be put up early on Memorial Day. There'll be some on the town hall front green, part of Town Hall, and then along the green here in Town Hall, all in paying respects for our servicemen and women. And then Park and Rec, which Dan Calhoun is the director, and Laura Murphy, our events director for Park and Rec, we'll put on our Facebook page the links if you wanted to hang a flag out or make a flag and put on your loved one that has passed, that has served in the military. Similar to what we did the Easter egg hunt, we're going to put little pins there where you can show your pride. And if people wanted to kind of take a look at all of our wonderful patriotism here in New Milford, you could see it. So, Paul, I appreciate the question. I think it's a wonderful thing that we do here in our community, and we're going to continue to honor those men and women who solely deserve this honor.
Absolutely. Alrighty, we've got Karen Pollard, our Economic Development Director. She just wanted to let everybody know that masks, IR thermometers, and sneeze guards for small businesses are available. And then she put the link for the New Milford Economic Development page on
Perfect.
The comments.
Thank you, Karen. So as we talked about a little bit earlier, the economic development, Karen with the economic development team, along with our corporation too, and along with the state, have partnered to allow some of our businesses to get certain items. The newer ones now are these electronic thermometers. So as Karen has posted on the link, if you could get that link and put your contact information, I believe the state had 50,000 of these to give out. So if you could get your contact information there as quickly as you possibly can, there's the opportunity to get that at no charge to you. The same with some of the other PPE stuff that the state is giving us to distribute, and those are by when you fill out the proper forms online. Then that gets sent down to our EOC team. And our EOC team is our Emergency Operations Command team. And then they help with Karen to parcel out the requested equipment. So again, thank you, Karen, for posting that on the site. And if you're a business owner, please click that link to get the needed equipment that you may need.
Awesome. Back over on YouTube, Todd Quapian is back here, and he says, what page will be streaming the live Memorial Day ceremonies? And, Todd, we'll be on the Town in New Milford Facebook page streaming those. It'll be, we're going to break it up into like little segments. It's probably not going to be one continuous thing just because logistics of everything, but just keep looking out for live from each location. That's what we're going to do. So it should be fun.
So if you can, just make sure to click on it starts at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So just click on the Town of New Milford's Facebook page, and that's where we'll start the streaming. Then after the streaming, we'll make sure to put up all of those as well as pictures that we'll take as well, and we'll put them on all of our sites as well.
Awesome. We got Pat Erickson again. She asks if we've got an approximate number on New Milford unemployment rate at present.
So currently, Pat, as of I believe it was April 13th, the confirmed numbers was New Milford was over 18%. When you look at the new additional information that we do have, and when these new updated numbers comes in, we'll be well above 20% unemployment. And those numbers are depression level numbers that were seen in the 1930s. Again, as we're looking to move forward, as I said before, the pandemic is not only a medical one, but is also now an economic one. So we're looking at all opportunities to help those that are unemployed, seeking employment, and also helping those small businesses try and get back on their feet as well. And I know Congress is looking at another stimulus package to unveil. We don't know, we know as much about that as you do, the public, when you're watching in the news. And then on top of that, the state is looking at some other opportunities as well. And as we continue with these meetings, and as we've said since the beginning, if we need to do these more than once a week, we will. But currently, once a week seems to be kind of satisfactory. So I'll have more information as we continue to move forward during this pandemic. But it is very cognizant and sobering to see these type of numbers, especially here in New Milford.
Karen Pollard commented again that Litchfield Crossing will be building another building for food businesses and restaurants. So
Okay, great. Thank you, Karen.
we got a good morning from Tanya Lillis.
Morning, Tanya.
And Eileen Caruso says, thank you for that. Nothing should change to honor our veterans. So,
amen to that. Thank you. And as we said in the very beginning, we cannot thank our men and women in the armed forces for everything they do to protect us and keep us safe and out of harm's way. I'd also like to thank, while we have a brief moment, all of our first responders, all of our medical staff, our essential employees, our town employees have all provided these services through this pandemic and continue to do so. Can't thank them enough. Without their help, we couldn't run. We couldn't run the government here. And I just can't thank them for their selflessness and enough for all of their hard work.
Alrighty. Seems that we've kind of trickled down on the questions and comments right now. Joanne Figs just chimed in here. So the numbers of unemployment for both New York and Connecticut are staggering. It'll take forever to get unemployment benefits.
And another sobering thing is that we have lost, the state of Connecticut, have lost double the amount of jobs that were created in the last 10 years. So that's a very sobering statistic to kind of think about and look at. So it's something we need to be cognizant of as we continue to plan for New Milford going forward. But looking at it optimistically, with the fortitude that we have up here, we're going to do what we can to successfully continue to move through this pandemic and do it together. And working together as a community, that's how you get out of these times. They did it in the 30s, and we're going to do it here in 2020 in New Milford. And I'd also like to say another quick thanks to is one of the things that we've been working on is the graduation, the 2020 graduation for our high school seniors. Go Green Wave. And they've had one heck of a year for them. I've been speaking with Principal Shagru. I've been speaking with Dr. Parker, Angie Chastain from the Board of Education, Olgarella from the Grad Party, the New Milford PTO, Chief Ceruto, Chief Squires from the Waterwitch Fire, and all in the efforts to make the graduation ceremony that's going to take place on the 20th of June, which is a Saturday, one that will be very memorable. It'll be a little different than you would normally do, but there are pandemic guidelines that we must follow. But I think it'll be a wonderful tribute to our class of 2020. We're kind of finalizing everything now. I had very good meetings both virtually and in person as we've been down at the high school. And I can't thank those agencies and organizations enough for their continued effort in trying to make this a very memorable and as best can be wonderful experience for our seniors, who I'd like to thank for doing a great job representing our town. A lot of class, a lot of dignity, and I can't thank you. As I said in the very beginning, go Green Wave.
All right. On the topic of schools, Katisha Purvis says, I know it might be too early to ask this, but if school does start back in the fall, and if I'm too scared to send my kids because of the pandemic, will I have options to homeschool?
Hey, Katisha, that's a great question. And as we talked about a little bit earlier, it is still a little bit early in the process. I know Dr. Parker and the Board of Education are working in conjunction with the State Board of Ed as to how that looks, how that would open, what's going to be needing to open it physically, the schools, or continue with long distance learning, and then the ability to homeschool as well. They're still trying to really come up with all of those guidelines. So I would just stay tuned as we move farther in the process for more definitive answers on that topic as well.
All right. We're at a stop for questions and comments
Okay.
at this point.
So I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in today. I hope you enjoy your holiday, but let's please remember the true significance of Memorial Day on Monday, and that's if you can, spare a few moments to give reflection and pause to those men and women who've given the ultimate sacrifice for us here in our glorious country and our beautiful and wonderful town. That moving forward, please try and stay safe out there. And we'll see you again on Saturday next week. And please stay tuned on my Facebook page for all really the current updates that are happening in town. And we'll have more news for you. And again, look forward to seeing you next week. God bless. New Milford proud, New Milford strong. Thank you.